Good morning, everybody. This is the Patriot Trading News Hour. I'm your guest host, Jason. I am one of the partners in Colorado. Joe Jaquint last year went out and wanted to build his Colorado business back up. Came on the air on Groundhog's Day and said, "Hey, I want to sell part of my company and get someone over here in Colorado to run an office and get this thing moving the way it used to." I'm one of those guys that did it. I came on guns ablaze, and I was full on into this opportunity. Love what we're doing here at KHNC. The radio station just ended up being a byproduct of everything that has happened. And here I am a scant year and a half later, and I'm running a radio station and running the Colorado version of Patriot Trading Group. And it's been a great adventure. It's been an exciting time as we try to build this thing stronger every day. The number to call if you want to buy gold and silver, that's going to be 800-951-0592. That is the number you call when you want to take that little extra bit of savings you've got, that extra money that you're able to pluck from your paycheck and put it in a place where it's going to hold its value. It's going to retain what you did, that time, that effort that you put into getting that little bit of money. Instead of just putting it in a digital money account, your bank account, and letting it sit there and lose value day after day, you can put it in gold and silver. You can buy gold or silver. I don't have a special lined up just yet today. I don't know if I'll be getting one before the end of the show, but there's always really good items up there. I know one thing that we're going to sell. I know they have this in Arizona and here. I do want to sell half dollars. We did dimes yesterday, and I just blew my dimes right out the door. I actually end up short on dimes almost. I got enough to fill the orders, but you guys stepped up. You guys really were wanting to fill your coffers with those silver dimes. Today, I want to definitely say we got a good supply of half dollars here in Arizona. You just call the number, 800-951-0592. I'll do those half dollars at $120 a roll. Gold is up again today. I'm going to check it. I was on doing the Good Morning show in Colorado, and I was unable to check. We like to check those gold numbers, as we come into the Patriot Trading News Hour. But as I'm looking, looks like it's still up. Gold is up again today. It's just trying to flirt with that 1350 level. Right now, I got it at about 1348. Silver is just really trying hard to push past 15 again. This is the time to buy, whether it was last week or next week or today. We're sort of in that phase, what I call the good old days. It's a time where we're going to be looking back at 2018, 2019, 2017, even, and maybe in a few more months. I don't know when this next market crash is going to happen, but it will happen. A debt money system backed by a central bank is meant to have boom and bust cycles. We are at the end of a boom cycle. Whether that means it takes a year or it could be next week, the bust will happen, and you will be very happy that you bought in what I call the good old days. I love listening to the old timers, the guys that bought at $250, the guys that bought at $450, saying, "Man, I'm so glad I bought when I did, and I got my gold sitting there at that price." Well, in reality, what they did is they took their saved money and they protected it. They put it there, and now that money that they saved is still valued the same as it was then. It's just, it wasn't in a bank losing that value. So that's what we do here at Patriot Trading Group. I love being a part of this. I'm a huge fan of gold and silver. That's why I started selling it on my own in years past before I joined with Patriot Trading Group. And I despise those moneyed vultures, those central bankers that steal and cause all kinds of trouble for us every day. I'm going to put this guy on hold, and hopefully he'll just stay there for a minute. What I want to cover today, I've got a clip. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the changing world. And when the world is changing, it can get pretty scary. I've got a clip. It's going to be by a guy, if I remember his name right, David Icke. If I'm pronouncing the last name wrong, you have to shoot me an email. Icke. I've been listening to a few of his videos. He didn't introduce himself, but this guy in the past couple of decades has been laughed at us about some of his predictions about what's going on, especially with technology. And now the stuff that he had predicted years ago is happening now. And I got a nice little clip coming into the next segment about, where is this technology going? Are we being guided purposely in a specific direction? And are we as a people in America and other countries, are we even going to be able to control ourselves, or is somebody else going to be controlling us through our technology? The stuff he talks about is, I think, very real, and it's a very scary future of where the technological companies, that are ruling us right now, ruling the things that we buy with our technology, our smartphones, our TVs, our Alexa, all of these things that are in our life now. He's going to paint a very specific picture. It's a really good clip. I'm going to bring that on. I'm thinking my partner Brian will be joining us here in the near future on this. But it's going to be great radio. You're going to like. It's going to wake you up a little bit. Joe does a great job of this every day. He's a pro at radio. I love trying to pick up anything I can off the guys that have been on the air on KHNC in the past years before I was on, and listening to Joe. Joe's got good advice. I mean, I'm doing a lot of radio now. I had no idea how many hours of radio I was going to end up having to do, and I'm hoping that I'm not too much of a bore to listen to. I was more of a very private individual, my partner Brian being the same. But it's just nothing I can do now. I'm in the public eye, maybe on a small level, but I can't hide with my gold and silver, and stay out of the public eye anymore. I'm on the radio. I have to take care of a couple of companies, being Patriot Trading Group and KHNC. So I'm going to come back on the other side with this story, this guy talking about technology. You guys don't miss it. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to talk about it. Have some maybe have my partner Brian react with me, but. You guys got to get some gold and silver. It pertains to everything that goes on. If you really want to protect yourself in a world that's changing rapidly, call 800-951-0592. Get some $50 a day, $120. Get as many rolls as you want. All right, we're back. This is the Patriot Trading News Hour. The number to call, once again, 800-951-0592. All right, I talked about having an audio clip by David Icke talking about it will be done by 2030, and he's talking about our kids mostly being aimed at because they're more open to the new technology and new things. Let me play this. I'll have some reaction to it on the other side. It's fascinating, so hang on.
By 2030, the connections will start to be made between artificial intelligence and the human brain. We've been through a process of preparation, of getting people, first of all, stage one, addicted to technology that they holdables, smartphones, tablets. That's basically achieved. You just have to walk through a city and you see the addiction. And they're targeting specifically the young. Why? Because the young of today and the children of today are going to be the adults when they want to bring this AI connection in full blown. For that to happen, they have to get people addicted to technology to the point where they'll accept it and where it's the most natural thing in the world. And it's happening in front of our eyes. The first stage is to get people addicted to technology to the point where, at the most extreme, they'll get up in the dead of night and they'll queue, stand in line outside an Apple store to get the first of the new technology. And what they want eventually, and not too distant into the future, is people basically lining up to be connected to AI. In the same way that people in Sweden now are having parties to celebrate someone being microchipped, right? All this connects. So the next stage, because the idea is to get in the body, the next stage is to get on the body. So we went from just holdables, we went to wearables, we went to Bluetooth and Google Glass Apple Watches, and all these other gadgets that go on the body now. Even what they call electronic tattoos that are basically microchips on the skin. And the next stage is to go in the body, which is already starting in places like Sweden. And people like Ray Kurzweil, who is a Google executive, I mean, Google and Facebook are really at the cutting edge of this stuff. People think it's a social media operation only, or a search engine only. No, no, no. This whole Google group now, which is given the name Alphabet, are absolutely at the cutting edge of this whole AI technology. So is Amazon. So is Amazon. Amazon's got contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars with the CIA and the Pentagon for cloud services and so on.
Yeah, they have massive data services.
Massive, yeah.
The consumers don't see.
So the idea is to take this on, and what Kurzweil is saying, and he claims an 80% success rate in his predictions of incoming technology and when it will come in. But, you know, if you know when it's going to come in, then you've got a great chance of predicting it. I mean, you know, it's like if you know when a stock market's going to fall because the people you are connected to are going to make it fall, well, you're going to get out just before it falls, and you're going to get in just before you know they're going to push it up. I mean, you know, you don't have to be, you know, Nostradamus if you know the script. This is the sales pitch, and this is why they're telling you. The sales pitch is when we connect to artificial intelligence, we'll be superhuman. That's what the sales pitch is. That's his sales pitch.
Right.
That's going to be the
Siri,
sales pitch.
Alexa, all these things.
Yeah. What you've got is the idea that connect to AI and you'll become superhuman intelligent. No, you'll become subhuman intelligent. You'll become a vehicle for artificial intelligence. And whoever controls artificial intelligence will control the perceptions of every mind that it's connected to. If you're going to make a physical connection with AI, you're not going to do that on a mass scale until you've made a psychological connection. And there is a process, a psychological process, which is known as preemptive programming. Preemptive programming is this. You're going to usher in a world that is so different, so dramatically different to what anyone's been used to, that you're going to have an obvious resistance purely by the chasm of difference between the world people are used to and the world you're taking them into. A resistance that says, hold on a minute, you want to do what? What? So you prepare them for it through preemptive programming. You put out a stream of movies out of elite-controlled Hollywood. You put out television programs, you put out books, you put out all these things that basically portray the world you want to take people into. This is why you've seen so many movies about control by robots, control by technology, of synthetic humans. You have the dystopian society being portrayed and portrayed and portrayed. And what that's doing, it's making the subconscious, to an extent the conscious mind, familiar with the world you want to usher in. So when you literally start to bring it in, there's not that chasm that there would have been before. There is almost a familiarity with it because you prepared people by portraying it over and over again. You call connection with artificial intelligence, so we'll accept the outcome that I've talked about, is these Alexas and these Echoes and these so-called office assistants or personal assistants. You start to interact with them as if they're human. And now they're bringing in internet-connected toys for kids, even little kids, and Barbie dolls that they can actually have conversations with artificial intelligence. They're now bringing in these robots that are these synthetic robots that are looking more and more like humans. A lot of them coming in from the East. And this is a whole psychological process of familiarizing us with artificial intelligence, to getting people to interact with it until it becomes the most natural thing in the world. By 2030, the connections will start to be made between artificial intelligence and the human brain. And the human brain will be connected to what he calls the cloud. Another name for this is the smart grid, basically to artificial intelligence. As time passes, artificial intelligence will be more and more of human thinking and human perception until basically it's the totality of human thinking and human perception, at which point we won't be human anymore in terms of the consciousness processes we are using today. We will be artificial intelligence. And this is the assimilation I'm talking about. If you are connecting the human mind to a grid, a global technological grid, that grid can be centrally controlled. It will take at the center point very, very few people to run it, and even fewer to decide how it's run. I say this to kids and anybody else: how long could you live without your smartphone? What is an alcoholic? Well, an alcoholic is someone addicted to alcohol. Yeah. Why is he addicted to alcohol? Because he can't stop drinking it. But you can't put your phone down. And if you do, within a few minutes you pick it up again, because you're addicted to it. So are you controlling that bit of technology in your hand, or is that controlling you? That's controlling you. Do you want your life controlled by a bit of technology? Do you want the rest of your life controlled by it? Or are you now going to go, I'm putting this down? If technology is going to be the servant rather than the governor, it has to serve the interests of humanity, and humanity does not have to serve it. We're in a situation now where humanity is serving technology. And it will be serving AI. Increasingly, it is serving AI in its algorithmic expression.
All right, so there you go. I saw this, and I wanted to bring it on because I think it has a lot to do with, everything that us as Americans are looking at in the future. He basically, he's describing all of these science fiction movies that we're watching all the time over the past bunch of years. I mean, it really sounds like the Borg. He's anybody who knows the Star Trek: The Next Generation. I didn't watch a lot of episodes, but I watched enough to know the Borg. The Borg is this alien race, and they're all hooked into their square spaceship, and it's all called the collective. It's all for one, and they're all ants, a part of the anthill, and then nobody has any individuality. There's no self-expression. There's no art. It's all about being efficient and growing the collective, grabbing knowledge from all over the universe and just absorbing it into this dry, dead spaceship. And that's kind of what he's talking about. And you see in America, you see with what we do with gold and silver is we're trying to protect people financially. And what he is describing, and I see a lot of intelligence as to what he is predicting. It seems very much so that this is where it's going. Money is not a bad thing. It's just that central banking is taking control out of our hands and taking the ability for us to do what we want with our savings and our money. Because look at you earn a day's labor, you should be able to save it and do what you want with it. But the money system, the central banking, has taken that from us by simply having a printable currency, a bloated, over-printed currency, or more precisely, digital currency that's just added upon every day. The money that you've earned and saved, they're taking it from you. They know how to stay on top of the situation. They're at the leading edge of it. They know where to put the money and how to put the money to best use for themselves. But we are taxed in more ways than once the wealth that we earn, and it's taken from us. What he is describing, and from my take on this is, this technology is moving in a very specific direction. They're going to make it so that people don't have to think. And how much usefulness do you have to the world if you don't have a job that's important or a brain to bring yourself to another place to help yourself and your family out? They're talking about eliminating so many parts of society because of this artificial intelligence. So the thing that struck me the most is when he talked about market booms and busts. He's like, if you're part of in the know, to get out before it crashes, and how to get in as you build up the bubble back up. And we don't have that. We don't have that ability as much as a small group of elites at the top. So he's talking about this artificial intelligence, this bringing people into technology to the point where you don't even know what you're thinking, because the things that are being brought to you by your device that you are addicted to is telling you how to think. And somebody is in charge of this. It could be done for the betterment of mankind, but there's going to be a group of individuals, at these big companies he mentioned, like Google, and they're going to be the decision makers. And by the way, all these big companies, they are hand in hand with these bankers. They know that their financial interests are tied in directly to the financial system. And you better believe the bankers are going to basically guide this in a very specific direction. China is what the bankers want. They want a communist type government with a little bit of freedom in the markets, but only so much as that there's a few big companies that they can control. That is precisely where we're at. And now they're gonna control our minds. This is mind control. Stay tuned. I'm gonna cover a little bit more of this as we get back on the other side of the break.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, a daily broadcast launched by Phyllis Schlafly, who served as an articulate voice for traditional values for more than 70 years. Upholding that legacy and himself an author, national speaker, and attorney, here's the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
The political narrative of the left is not just changing the way people think. It's changing the landscape of the open market. That is especially true on the issue of climate change. While some of us laugh when we hear Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say that the world will end in 12 years, there are millions of leftists who actually think this way. What's worse is they want to use the nanny state to make you act that way too. Their ridiculousness knows no bounds. A prime example is the recent move by liberal municipalities to ban plastic straws. Climate change activists claim a move to paper straws will be an important step towards saving the planet. Starbucks got ahead of the game by announcing a new lid for their coffee that is meant to be strawless. Environmentalists cheered, but nobody saw the need to point out that the new lid design added more plastic per cup than if they just used a straw instead. That means more plastic in landfills just to make environmentalists feel better about themselves. Then there's the matter of paper straws. These paper straws have to be protected from moisture before usage just to keep them from disintegrating. What waterproof sleeve do you imagine they might put on the straws? That's right, plastic! Now instead of having paper sleeves over plastic straws, we have plastic sleeves over paper straws. The only net change is that the straws are more expensive to businesses and they don't work as well for consumers. That's not the only ridiculous way the leftist narrative is changing the market. Consider the new symbol of environmentalism known as electric cars. The government incentivizes consumers to buy them, and environmental activists sing their praises. Yet a recent German study that took into account the mining and processing of electric car batteries revealed that the average electric car actually leads to more CO2 emissions than a comparable diesel vehicle. It's all another leftist deception. We need to break through the lies of the left and take America back to a healthy view of conservation. We don't need a nanny state to do it. All we need is a culture of parents teaching their children to respect and conserve God's creation.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report with Ed Martin. Phyllis Schlafly Eagles are eagerly preparing for the 48th Annual Gateway Eagle Council to be held in St. Louis on September 13 to 15. Rally some friends for 3 exciting days of speakers, networking, and resourcing at the Gateway Eagle Council. Find details at phyllisschlafly.com. phyllisschlafly.com. See you there, and join us again for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
Welcome back to the Patriot Trading News Hour. I'm the guest host, Jason, partner in Colorado. The number to call to buy your gold and silver is 800-951-0592. I just played that audio piece by David Icke talking about, AI, artificial intelligence, and how this is a world that's being built, and how instead of just thrusting the population into it once it's invented, to prepare us for where they want to guide society. And anybody that has any understanding of the book 1984, you know that George Orwell was had this almost Nostradamus type prediction of these events. It really feels like he's the new Nostradamus when it comes to this, because a lot of the things in that book are very, very eerily similar to what's happening. I'm not a big user of technology. I didn't even have a smartphone until this opportunity to run the Colorado office came on, and I knew that I was going to have to have a more smart way to run this part of the business. So I bought that. I don't use it. I hardly ever use it for any of the things that people use it for. But it's a really good separate device from my personal phone. I just wanted to have another phone, one that had a little bit better usage. I've never been against technology. I think it's a very important part of the advancement of humankind. I'm not one of those anti-technology guys. I've always been an anti-let a couple of guys be in control of everything kind of guy. So knowing what I know about the economy and the history of the economy and what's happened with this country and the history of other very successful nations on the earth, like the Roman Empire, and seeing how they failed. Our technology, the Romans' technology, humankind was advancing in both of these countries, and Rome fell apart. And Rome fell apart very, very similar to what's going on in America today. And I don't like that technology can be weaponized. What this guy David was talking about is he's talking about weaponizing technology against the people, to where a very small group of hands can decide what it's going to be and where it's going to take us. It's disturbing to me. My son uses a smartphone, and I make sure to check him regularly. You have to. If you have kids that are using this stuff, you got to check it. This is not a habit, an addiction that you want your kids to have. But it's also a useful device. So I am not against technology, but the biggest thing I guess I would caution people from how I see it is, if you want to be outside of this paradigm, this prediction that this David Icke had talked about earlier on the show, gold and silver is a very, very big piece of the puzzle, because if you don't want to be one with the collective, you have to be able to step away from your device, take vacations from it, tell the multitudes of people that you communicate on these devices, I'm off limits today. I'm unplugging. You have to have, if you want to exist outside of that system that he's predicting, you have to have an ability to have a free thinking, critical thinking mind, something that will give you the ability under an emergency situation to survive whatever could come from this. I mean, anytime a situation in society changes with technology or the world politics, there's always some dangers attached to it. Wars or disasters, things that happen. And the only thing you can really do is, if you're not an elitist, if you're not the president or some global leader, there's not a whole lot you can do to isolate yourself from these situations. But you can definitely take charge of your own situation. We may be, in my mind, we're a less free country than originally brought forth with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, but we're still free enough that you can do a whole lot on your own to make yourself a very for a better word, a prepper. To be a prepper and take care of yourself. So one of the things you do economically, you have yourself outside their financial system. The best way to exist outside the financial system, the most expedient and best way, is precious metals. Precious metals is something you can carry. You can carry just a little bit of it. You can carry a great deal of wealth. You know, $1 million worth of gold fits inside a shoebox, for example. So if you have a great deal of wealth or just a little bit, it's a way that you can keep your wealth outside of a technological system that might be aimed against the common man. You know, if we hear at KHNC, we have the Alex Jones show, and a lot of people are not big and they don't like Alex Jones, but he talks a lot about these things that are on the horizon. He's been talking for 20 years about things that he was laughed at as a kook, and now suddenly it's common knowledge, the things that he talked about. Now he talks about things today he's still considered a kook, but these things keep on happening. So just like David Icke, he's predicting where this stuff is going. And one of the things is, hey, when people's usefulness is no longer needed, maybe the things are being enacted in society to eliminate the vast majority of the humans walking the face of the earth. Now, I don't know. I mean, we all know about World War II, you know, trying to eliminate the Jews. The Nazis really did not, you know, they wanted that eliminated from the face of the earth, you know, genocide. Well, when does genocide turn into, hey, we don't need 7 billion people walking the earth, we just need to have a half a billion, you know? And if these things, if there's some power out there wanting to take humanity in a very specific direction, and this is a very, very scary, for me, situation that could happen by having, once again, just like our economic system, ruled by private bankers. You have a technological industry that's going to be ruled by just a small handful of people. And I don't want to be, I don't know about you guys out there, I don't want to be plugged in. I'm not going to be plugged in. I'm going to make sure to take the technology and use it responsibly. But I'm not going to be plugged into this stuff. I'm going to keep myself safe. I'm going to keep my family aware of the dangers of being plugged in 24 hours a day to this stuff. And you out there listening in Arizona and in Colorado, and anybody that's on 1360khnc.com listening in, investigate this stuff for yourself. It exists. It's out there, and you got to take responsibility for it. You got to look at what's happening all around you every day and take those steps. I was fascinated when I ran into this piece, and I thought it would be a good topic to bring on the air today, but. It's got quite a bit of that doom and gloom in there, but you know what? I don't feel like doom and gloom that I present is the revelations and the end of the world. I don't believe that's happening. I just think that the average guy needs to use his brain instead of being plugged in somewhere and figure out how to make things work best for yourself. We do gold and silver. The phone number, 800-951-0592. We have $50 here and in Arizona for $120 a roll. Just call the number. We'll set up an appointment for you to come in and pick up your precious metals. I'll be the guy in Colorado you meet with. So buy it today. We'll be right back after another commercial break. Welcome back, the Patriot Trading News Hour. I'm your guest host, Jason, filling in for Joe. Joe had needed to get a trip in with his wife. I don't know all the details, so it doesn't really matter to me. You know, he'll be covering for me when I need a break, and I definitely like to cover for Joe when he's on a break. I love to have new shows instead of repeats. One of the options I had today was just to click on the a replay of yesterday or a previous show that Joe did, and I feel like, you know, whether you like me or not, I think I'm bringing something different and fresh to the air, and I definitely think that's better than just playing the same old thing or what we heard yesterday. So wanted you know, I don't get to come on Arizona very often. My partner Brian and I, we get to do our show there in Colorado, and those listeners are very they know who we are now. We've been on for a year and a half. I think we've gotten better. I think our shows are better than we did when we first started out. And Joe is patient with us and helped us get through those early days of doing KHNC radio. But once in a while we get to come on KXXT there in Arizona and do the show that Joe does over there. And one thing I guess do a little background of the guy that Joe chose being me. I can't speak for Brian too much, but I used to be, for a long time, I was, I didn't have a whole lot of, I didn't know where I was going. I delivered a lot of, years ago, I delivered pizza. I was always very efficient. I think one of the things Joe figured out about me is that I'm very efficient. I take what resources I have and make the best of it. I was so efficient as a pizza delivery driver that, and understanding how to make that job work for me. Cash tips was always, I love cash tips. But I made that job work for me. And back in those days, in the early 2000s, the back end of 2004, I'd been newly married a couple of years before, and had a baby coming in 2004, and he was born, and we were living in a trailer. And being a pizza delivery driver, we were one of those guys that they offered the loans to. Hey, or they were giving loans to everybody. Well, a friend of ours was a real estate agent, and she came to us and was like, yeah, they have this thing. It's a stated income loan. It's a variable rate interest loan. Yeah, everybody can get one. So I was like, oh, so we can get out of this trailer and get into a house. Okay, great. Well, there are lending standards for a reason. I'm not against all regulation. I'm an individual freedom guy, but we were definitely one of those that should not have gotten a loan. But I see here's my payment, and this is the money I need to make. And so my wife and I, we moved into a neighborhood. It was one of those newer, your first time buyer home neighborhood. So there was a whole lot of trailer park people joining us there in the neighborhood. The neighborhood was pretty a wild place to live for a while. But here came the housing crisis, and it crashed and burned. And at one point, I was still delivering pizzas and paying the bills. But the houses on both sides, left and right of our house, and the three houses across the street, they were all empty. So I saw the housing bubble burst firsthand, and I was always trying to find better ways to earn money. So my biggest thing was paying down debt. I always made extra payments, extra principal payments. Let's get rid of this mortgage. I paid off a $56,000 second mortgage in 6 years or 7 years, something like that. It was a 15-year second mortgage. I was just a hound to just pay off debt because I knew the less money I owed, the smaller the payments, the better for me month to month. I ended up being a process server, so being a pizza delivery driver, your money's good at night, but the daytimes, I was always looking for a better gig in the morning, and I didn't want my wife to work. I wanted her to take care of our son. We were very big proponents of stay-at-home mom. So I was always bouncing around different day jobs, trying to find something to complement the nighttime job, and I found process serving. And I, once again, like always, I was as efficient as I possibly could. You get this stack of papers, and if you don't know what a process server is, it's a guy that goes out and gives people the bad news. You haven't been paying your mortgage, you haven't been paying your credit card bill, you haven't been paying your school loan, and then I show up after you've missed 3, 4, 5 payments, and they basically are going to garnish your wages or garnish your bank account. I'm the guy that shows up. The first stage is you get served a summons. You get called to court, and then the court basically puts a judgment against you. There is no defense for it. You signed on the dotted line for a loan. You are not paying the loan. Then the judge has to find a way to forcefully make you pay it. And that's what the first thing is. You serve the summons, and then the judgment's against you. And then there's the interrogatory, the next step, where they want to find out where your assets are so that the plaintiff can collect the money. Well, so I started doing this, and I'd get like 50 to 100 of these papers a day, and I'd go out and knock on doors. And I figured out the more doors you knock on, the more money you get paid, because you have to get successful serves to really make the money. And it took over the pizza delivery job. I started doing that day and night. And I learned a whole lot about it, the economy. I started listening. Those are the days I really started listening to the Patriot Trading Group. I started tuning. It's funny because when I first started listening to gold and silver shows, I started to understand that I got to find a way to save for the future. Not just paying down debt's not the only thing. I need to learn how to save money and figure out ways to maybe earn some money. To take that saved money and do something that'll make it grow. And so I looked at all the paper markets and stocks, and I just saw disaster in all those areas. But I started listening to Patriot Trading Group. There was like 3 or 4 gold and silver shows I could tune into at that time. And so I tuned them all in, and Patriot Trading was one of them. And as time went on, suddenly the guys selling the silver dollars and had this catchy music, and they disappeared. They were gone. And then the other show, it was hanging around for a while there, and it was gone. And all that was there was Patriot Trading Group. At the time, it was still Eric and Joe together. Slowly, that turned into just Joe after about a year or two. And I learned more and more about gold and silver, to the point where I found out a way that I was able locally to sell it on the side. As a process server, I could go to, it'd be on different towns on different days. Fort Collins one day, and Greeley the next day, and Commerce City one day, and then Wheat Ridge another day. I'd have, these stacks of papers were, we'd get all the cities loaded up, and I'd have to go knock down each city over the course of a week or 2 weeks. And found a way to get gold and silver cheap as a kind of a dealer rate from somebody that was helping me out. I bought a large inventory, and I just started selling it on the side. And, Craigslist or whatever advertising I'd use. And then I would go to that area, see if I had a customer call me up and say, hey, I'm in Greeley. I'd say, okay, I got papers coming up there on Wednesday. I'll meet you there. Well, this is what I did. I was the gig economy that Joe talks about all the time. I'm gonna finish up with this on the final segment of how I ended up with Patriot Trading Group, or when you get back. Final segment, Patriot Trading News Hour. The number to call is 800-951-0592. You can get yourselves some half dollars at $120 a roll. Call that number. Go to allamericangold.com. Everyone knows the drill. If you're new, that's the phone number you want, 800-951-0592. You listen to this show. If you're new, keep on listening. You're gonna get yourself a wealth of information. You're gonna learn a lot. I was just briefly kind of to end the show, just kind of letting Arizona know who is this guy that Joe chose. For you guys in Arizona that have been listening to Joe for a long time, and some of you guys have just been listening just recently. You got a great guy there in Arizona that definitely, nobody's perfect. Joe's not a perfect individual. Nobody is. But Joe's he's got his ideas in the right place. What he wants, how he wants to help people out, especially when it comes to gold and silver. But he didn't choose me on accident. He didn't choose my partner Brian on accident. He had an idea of what he wanted, and he went out and got it. And the story I'm telling you about, pizza delivery driving and process serving, and how I was selling gold and silver part-time on the side. All these things were stuff that things that Joe wanted to hear. Joe wanted a couple of guys that were in Colorado and grew up in Colorado. I've been in Colorado my whole life. He knew that a California transplant here in Colorado wasn't going to be something that was going to work on the air and with the Colorado customers. But, what happened was he came on the air Groundhog's Day last year and said he wanted to sell a piece of his business and get some partners running Colorado. And so here we are. And I love the opportunities to talk in front of Arizona. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get ourselves broadened out there into a few more cities maybe in the future. That's one of the things about the radio station is there's a lot of potential here. And we're really hoping to get Patriot Trading Group a much broader, wider customer base as far as cities and states across the nation. So, you know what? We got. If you haven't listened to KHNC, and I know you guys got a really good radio station there at KXXT, but if you want to listen to some open-minded free thinkers, whether you agree with some of the content or not, you're going to get some good shows. We have Steve Stars, for example, coming on our open forum. When Joe goes off the air. There in Arizona, the next show up here in Colorado is the Open Forum, which is this great group of guys that we put together, 4 different hosts, and they're doing the 5 days a week from 11 to 1 Colorado time, which is, I think, 10 to 2 Arizona time right now, or 10 to noon. But, switch over to 1360khnc.com over there in Arizona. You can stream it in, and some of the stuff these guys are bringing to the table is just absolutely outstanding. What Joe has started here, myself helping him out, what we're doing together, with our partner Brian and the listeners and the advertisers there at KHNC is pretty cool. It's pretty good stuff. Don't be plugged into those other radio stations. You know these big conglomerate radio stations. They follow a script. They do things by a certain set of rules. And with this independent station in Colorado, we get to improv. We get to do it as it comes. Say what we want and do as we please. But within FCC rules and regulations, obviously. But it's a great adventure that we've partaken in, and everybody there in Arizona, you are invited to listen in on this thing. So that's going to do it here. Everything going right. We should see and hear Joe here back on Monday. So everybody stay tuned, and I'll be hearing from you guys later.